Welcome to the Jefferson County Post interview with Jefferson County Commission Chairman Jim Carmichael. He also represents District 9, and I think you have about, 14 years on the commission?
I'll have my 15th year September 1st.
So he has a long-standing history of service in Jefferson County. And we are looking at and facing, coming up in April, our fourth quarter of this fiscal year. For those of you who do not know, the fiscal year for the county is much different than your own personal finances or your health insurance or whatnot. It ends on June the 30th, and they have to pass a budget for the next fiscal year, 25-26, by June the 30th, because it goes into effect July 1st. Is that correct?
Sure do.
So recently, Monday, you had a little informational meeting that was for both the commissioners, the budget committee members, and the public in general. I know that you were instrumental in trying to bring forth some information, because there's been a lot of misinformation about what goes on in the budget, why there's a deficit. So can you catch up for the people who weren't able to attend that meeting? Can you kind of catch us up on where we stand going into this budget season?
Okay, well, where we stand in the budget is a lot of people get their information off Facebook, and most of the time that's incorrect. Sometimes it's right, most of the time it's wrong. But you know, where we're at right now is we got to replace the funding that was cut out of last year's budget. And we're looking at right at 1.5 million that was cut out of a $3.7 million budget last year. And what we've got to do is replace that. And it's got some patrol cars in it, a couple of ambulances. And it was more or less that we ended up funding $2 million worth of what the budget originally started at. So we're actually starting out at about 1.5 right now, and with the insurance premiums up coming in, we're looking at a workers' comp at about 15%. General liability for the county is going to be up about 8%. So what we're looking at here is we're going to start this budget out about $2 million in the hole. And that's pretty much where we're at. And right now, for everybody that's wondering, a penny on the tax rate is roughly about $2.35.
So last year, in order to hold down the property tax increase, you guys determined, the budget committee and then the full body approved, rolling some purchases to this year, hoping that there would be a way to catch it up. So we're talking about a couple of ambulances, some police cars that need to be replaced and equipped, and then there's a couple of other things that add up to about $1.5 million. That's just getting you back to the starting point,
exactly.
Right? And that doesn't count any kind of what we would call natural increases of health insurance, utilities, cost of living increases.
That's not got cost of living in it. And you know what I actually look at right now is I don't think the budget this year is going to be as far down as it was last year, but I don't think we're going to miss it by that far.
So last year you ended up 3.7, and you bought it down to about what, $2 million?
$2 million.
$2 million deficit. This year we have 1.5 going in with what basically was left over from last year.
Sure.
And then you have your natural increases, because the county has natural increases just like people do in their personal financing.
Right. And see, what we got this year coming on is it's done passed once the new wheel tax. So you have one basic wheel tax is $25, and we have done passed on first reading, and we have to pass it in April for it to become law. Is that another $35 will be added to the wheel tax, and that'll help us with capital projects. It'll help us with the roads, and that money's going to be divided up in about 4 different ways. But see, that'll help erase the most of that 1.5, but it won't get us all the way through the 1.5, because we got to play catch up. And that's where, you know, the indifference came last year, is that, you know, we started out with a fairly decent budget, there was some stuff to trim, but you know, every so many years, you've got to have more money to balance this budget. And right now, with this inflation and the way it is, everything that we're buying for the county is costing more. To me, it's costing too much, but you still gotta have it. You got your needs, wants, and you gotta haves. And you know, we funded gotta haves last year when we should have not got behind. Because if we wasn't behind playing catch up, this wouldn't be so bad.
So, and I just want to be clear, the $1.5 million deficit that you're bringing in from with those ambulances and police cars, all that stuff that got trimmed last year, that doesn't include any of your natural increases, nor does it include requests, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It does not include any kind of increased department requests that, because you guys haven't seen that yet, correct?
Right. Yeah,
So,
you know, we kind of have an idea. Some of the fire departments are going to come for more money. You know, the sheriff's department's going to be wanting to give pay raises to change their pay schedule. And you know, there's going to be quite a few different things that's going to come up this time that we haven't officially heard it yet. So it is a quote, we see it coming.
so expect, the general public can expect that $1.5 million is going north, not going south.
Yes.
So you're looking at more, you know, depending on what gets granted from. When I say granted, I mean what gets approved from you all.
Right.
What you all buy into. You know, you could end up close to $3 million.
Sure. I fully expect it not to go all the way to 3 million, but I fully expect 2.6, 2.7 would not surprise me a bit, because at the rate everything that we do is going up, and you know, the cost of labor is just astronomical. And you know, everybody's wanting to play catch up. I mean, with the sheriff, you know, they was all wanting us to raise the salaries of the entry level police officers. So, you know, you're going to be looking at a lot of different stuff.
So, for the general public who's not used to dealing with pennies, when you say that a penny is worth $235,000. So when you say a penny is worth $235,000, what you're talking about is pennies that go on the property tax.
Yes, because when we discuss the property tax, we always do it in a penny, because that's how it's figured.
So you're talking about, for every $1 million, roughly 4 cents plus, and you can't do a half a penny. So
that's right. So you got to go to the higher side.
So you're looking about a nickel for every $1 million.
And see how we've got by with this budget for years past is we used fund balance to buy a lot of stuff. And now the comptroller's office does not, vehemently, they do not want us to use fund balance. What they want us to do is put it all in the tax rate.
Okay.
And you know, we have gave bonuses in the past and different things that we've done to actually hold the tax rate down. And now they're making it to where you've got to put any kind of reoccurring expense has to be put into the tax rate. And right now we've got a healthy fund balance, but we need to hang on to it.
So we have some good revenue that comes into this county from hotel motel tax. Please explain what that money can be used for, because that money can't be used to balance your budget.
Well, sure. And you know, it's just like the hospital funds the same way. But the hotel motel tax, it has to go exclusively for your economy. It has to go to help Jefferson County. You know, it can be used for, you know, anything to do with bringing money and bringing jobs into Jefferson County. You know,
economic development.
And it has to be strictly. You know, in the future here in the next month or so, we're going to be bringing to light some property that has been presented to the county for sale that money can be spent on. So we're looking at an investment. And, you know, as of right now, it's looking real good for the county to be able to do this. You know, we got about 2.2 million in this account. And, you know, it's time for us, if we're going to make an investment in the county, now's the time to do it.
But to be clear, so that people who are listening to this who have never looked at this budget before, that cannot be used to pay the utilities. You can't keep the lights on. You can't pay your employees with it. You can't buy
Economic development only, because that's how you make the money. Now, we're looking at the short-term rentals, the Airbnbs, we're looking at fees, we're looking at cost of that for the county. And I think that's going to be the next tax base that we could look at is fees for the Airbnbs. And you know, a lot of people's going to jump up and down, but we've got over 900 of them in the county. All the other counties around us have indulged into this. Sevier County and all is real big into this. And you know, we got to be tapping new sources of revenue other than the property tax. If we don't control property tax and get some good business in the county, we're going to be in trouble.
So coming up in this next quarter, which starts in April, so you guys are going to be looking at balancing the budget, looking at possibly purchasing some property. And then you also have an unfortunate thing that's coming up. You have lost a county commissioner, long-standing county commissioner, who also served as your budget chair for many years.
Mm-hmm.
So you are going to be having to face what is going to happen with that seat.
Right. Well, we have 120 days to replace John Neal Scarlett. And he was very key with the budget committee. And you know, there's going to be some tough shoes to fill. So, you know, we're going to have to make some big decisions come April. And it's really going to be about the change of the face of Jefferson County. There's going to be a lot of change.
In addition to serving as budget committee chair and as a commission member, Commissioner Scarlett was also parliamentarian.
Sure.
Which is a really key position on the county commission, because that's who keeps
Well, actually,
everything between the navigational poles.
The parliamentarian, its job's actually to keep me straight as chairman, is to keep me on the straight and narrow, and you know, that's a lot of ground to cover. John Neal was very good at being able to remember all the rules, the regs, everything that you do. So when I'm trying to keep up with something else that's more complicated, he was always there to help back up, okay, what exactly does the rule mean? And you know, we know what it says, but how do we perceive it? You get into perception is what you get into. And a good parliamentarian is got to stay up on how Robert's Rule of Order works, how all of the rules and regulations and laws that we deal with works. And it's a very complicated job.
It is a very important job. So that is another position that will have to be filled.
Sure.
Coming in, I guess, in April.
In April.
So tell me from your seat high up, because I sit in the cheap seats and you sit in the overlooking seat. So what are you looking at? What is on your radar for this next quarter?
Okay, what's on my radar is I want to try to get as much information out to the commissioners as I can. The commission is slowly learning. We have members that are picking up slack, they're getting interested, they're learning more about how the fundamentals of the commission works. And I think this budget, I'm very optimistic that it'll be handled a lot better than it was last year. And you know, it just takes experience to learn. The new commissioners, it's tough to walk into this, and you know, in 2010, it was nowhere near handling the money that we handle now. And you know, I took over as chairman in 2014, and I didn't know what a chairman's job was.
This is your second stint as chairman.
Yes.
And there has been a lot of changes on the Jefferson County Commission in those years.
Oh, yes, they have.
Things are very different. What, roughly, I'm not going to hold you to a dollar amount, but roughly, what does the budget number look like in Jefferson County? How large is our budget? If you combine schools and county side.
If you combined it all, you're going to be in the mid 120s, 120 million.
It's a lot of money.
You're going to be north of 120. And you know, when I first come on here, we would talk upper 80s like it was wow. And you know, now it's just such larger numbers.
I also want to make the point that there is on Facebook a lot of chatter about our debt in Jefferson County. Our debt has dramatically decreased since 2010. Is that correct?
Well, we have been in the upper 90 million before, And I think we're down about 34 million right now. I could safely say 34 million. And, you know, that's substantially down.
So I'm going to put you in the hot seat here with 3 questions. First, do you see anything happening with Jefferson Elementary School in this next quarter?
Yes, I do.
Second question is, do you feel like that this county commission is going to be able to come together a little more seamlessly than what it has shown in the last several meetings?
I really think that with Commissioner Scarlett passing away, that some people have decided, and they've come to me and talked about it and said, hey, you know, we've all depended on John Neal for a lot, and you know, we're gonna have to step it up. And I think that's going to energize the commission to want to set a good example for his memory, and I think that's what they'll do.
Actually, I fibbed. I'm going to ask 4 questions. Next question is landfill.
Sure.
We've been under the gun with the landfill for a little while now, financially.
Sure have.
And that situation has not resolved itself yet, correct?
No, it has not.
Do you see that happening in the next quarter?
I see by summer that I think we'll get to put that to rest. That, you know, there's going to be some changes in the area around the landfill. And I think that we're going to shed light on the information, find out what the problems are, let's get the permit fixed, and let's move on.
And last question. We're not going to hold you to a huge number, but do you think there's going to be a property tax increase this year?
I can say that I don't, unless we find funding somewhere that we don't know where it's at. You know, the wheel tax is going to bridge the gap on what we're making up. But you know, it's not going to put enough back. I don't see a substantial increase, but I think we're going to have to discuss one. And I think
so. Are we talking 5 or 6? If, in all fairness, if the wheel tax passes the second time, which sucks to do that.
Sure.
If the wheel tax passes the second time, are you looking at a nickel, somewhere around there?
I think that we could probably work with a nickel, 6 cents. And you know, there was a gentleman just the other night at the meeting, you know, that stood up and said, well, y'all should plan for this and just raise it a little bit every time. And I don't agree with that. you know, I can appreciate his input, but I don't agree with that at all. That we need to be good stewards of the county's money. But you know, back to what I said earlier, needs, wants, and gotta haves. You got to take care of the gotta haves, and you know that's not an option. You know, you can't cut something to save money that is directly going to cost the taxpayers more money later, and that's how we got where we're at now. And you know, as chairman, I don't want to pull something out of the budget ever again that we've got to have back next year. We should have last year, in hindsight, as Jimmy Carmichael talking, we should have probably funded the 3.7 million, and this year would have been a wash.
So, and I fibbed again, I'm going to ask another question. And this is really the last question. As far as budget committee chair, there is no time for water with that because you are in budget season.
Yes.
Someone has to. You presided over the meeting on Monday.
Sure.
Is there a conflict of interest with you retaining that chair?
There's not a conflict, but you don't need to be the chair of very pivotal things. The same person. You can be, but you know, Commissioner Seals has been out on medical, and see, technically right now, he is the chairman. I sat in for Tim Seals. And me and him had a phone conversation, and I got to talk to him. He seems to think that he can come back in April, and if he can, they'll have to elect a co-chair.
So there is a structure in
or
place.
They can restructure it any way they want, because that's a subcommittee of the county commission. And me as the chairman, you know, I can help oversee if they ask me. But see, the budget committee can recommend. The power don't lie in passing it. You know, a lot of people get caught up in the politics of, oh my God, the budget committee did this, and it's got to pass the full commission. You know, being chairmans and being leaders, You know, it all comes down to when 21 commissioners show up at a meeting and vote. That's the true power. As a legislator, you know, we don't get involved with the department heads and how they spend their money. We discuss what they want. But, you know, we don't micromanage because it's up to them to run their departments within their budget. So we are legislators, and a lot of people get that confused with other things in the county commission. You know, we are commissioners. We're the same as a senator or a congressman.
And you already have a structure in place. So right now, there is a chair of the
Sure.
budget.
Tim Seals is the chair.
So
At the absence of John Neal Scarlett, the co-chair steps up as Robert Rule of Order, and he could not be there, so I sat in for a non-voting.
as the high chair, you said in.
Yes,
Okay.
because it's a subcommittee.
Right.
See, when you got all your different subcommittees, it still falls under the same guise, a full county commission.
Right. I appreciate you coming out and speaking to us. We're going to try to do one of these every quarter. That way people kind of get it from a knowledgeable source as to what's coming up this quarter. And we don't have to go with conjecture and,
Sure.
and guessing. This is straight from the guy who presents the agenda.
There you
So we appreciate you coming. We appreciate the
Thank you
information.
for having me, and we're going to do the best we can to hold the taxes down as low as we can, and I promise you that we will get the most for our money. That
Look
there's
forward
going
to
to have to
seeing-
be some more negotiating.
We look forward to seeing what's going to come up in this quarter. This is most probably your busiest quarter of the year. Always.
This is it. This is it.
This is it. Well, thank you very much, and good luck, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.